back to another episode of Perspectives. This is the interview show where we talk to super interesting people and learn about their lives. People such as Mr. Ray Pearson, who is joining us today. My name is Holden Stefan Roy. Liddy Bro Flacco is, of course, my host, my partner in this Perspectives project, and we are here to learn about Ray Pearson. So thank you so much for joining us today. Appreciate having you here.
No, thank you. Thank you guys for having me. Excited.
Yeah.
Word.
So,
So, what's up to everybody in the chat already there, Lindell? We see you.
what's up, Lindell? This is a
Word,
live
man.
stream. Here and there will be a few questions from probably Lindell and others who may throw it up, but it's always good to engage the
Yeah,
people
we
and
always we
keep it
always like
alive.
to talk, keep like if people are in the chat asking questions, we want their questions to be heard. We want them to feel heard. You know what I'm saying? So, um, randomly throughout the interview, we'll just jump in whatever is being asked in the chat and whatnot. Um, but yeah, yo, why don't we get started? So,
Yeah, for
Ray,
sure.
Um, why don't you tell us where you're from and where are your parents from?
I'm originally from the Boogie Down Bronx. Both my parents
Recording
are
in
from
progress.
Yes,
both my
sir.
parents are from the Bronx, Puerto Rican, New Yorican. Um, so yeah, I'm a,
Word.
I'm a, I'm a Bronx, I'm a Bronx bomber.
What part of the X?
Right off of Aqueduct, West
Okay,
190th.
okay,
Um,
okay.
yeah, I was a good amount of my youth was on 190th.
Word. Word. Shouts out to the North Bronx. I was just talking about 'cause I used to live in the North Bronx. I was born to the North Bronx area. I was born to Eastchester Garden projects over by the 5 train on Boston Road. And I was just telling like some friends about like I spent like my whole even when we moved out of there, we lived over by Allerton, then Pelham Parkway. And so when I got out of my that's like all under my parents' household. And so like as soon as I got out of living in their household, I was like on some like I will never live that north and far in the Bronx ever again. It was rough on weekend nights when you're coming home from partying in the city and like your stop on the train is like that far North Bronx. It'd be like, oh my God, why can't I live on Third Avenue? On the tube. But yeah, nah, I'm wild familiar with the area. I used to live. I lived in those areas, but I also lived off of Bainbridge on Bedford Park, on the D line. So that's like super close to Aqueduct, you know what I mean? Like just right there to it. Um Word though, that's what's up. Um, why don't you tell us a little bit about your life growing up in the Bronx and like what are your like earliest childhood memories with your parents? Like what was it like growing up in your household? What was playing musically in your household
Ooh,
before you were in control of music, right? Because when you turn teenager, you become like or but preteen, right? I think
yeah,
is when it really starts when like somewhere like around 9, 10, 11 years old, we
right,
all have that moment in our lives where we're like, I want to listen to this and
yeah.
this is what I like. But what was your household sounding like before you got there? Before you started deciding on what you were listening to? What were your parents playing in your household?
Hip hop, Curtis
Word.
Blow, um, Run DMC. My mom's a big fan of the record Set It Off by Strafe. Um, Spanish music, especially when they're cleaning, the typical, what I mean, Hispanic um rituals.
I gotta throw in
Um,
one thing here. So, while Flacco knows it what you mean, I'm from Montreal, Quebec, and a lot of people watching this are not going to be from the Bronx or from New York. All that to say is,
They won't
nah,
not mean.
we don't know what you mean, my G. I mean, I have an idea, having done this quite a few times, but all of my life growing up is wild different. Like we don't have the same radios up here. Shoot, when I was a
Mm.
kid, we got music 6 months later than you guys dropped it. You know, like the movie would drop out where you were at, and up in Montreal, I gotta wait for it to come. You guys have
Mm.
culture like 2 3 years in advance, so it's like a whole different
Also,
experience.
also, yeah, Holden wouldn't. I mean, when it comes to what type of Spanish music, right? So, like,
Absolutely not.
I definitely have an idea, right? And then like I guess it depends on when you're born, what type of
Right.
Spanish music, right? But
Right.
like, yeah, Holden definitely doesn't now
Nah,
mean
so if
like
you could
he's
like I guess walk us through a couple of like key songs that really stuck out to you, or maybe even the vibes or what it like, just in a more, I guess, broader sense than just, or not broader, but more specific sense than just generally
Right.
Spanish music.
Right. Well, I'm kind of horrible with song titles. I know I'm familiar with all the songs like growing like what I grew up hearing. Um, as far as the hip hop, we're talking about like the Fugees. Killing Me Softly was big when pause when I was, you know what I mean, when I was in the Bronx. LL Cool J Doing It was out, killing the charts. Um, Curtis Blow, These Are the Breaks. A lot of old school hip hop, a lot of 90s hip hop, Crisscross Jump, um,
Mm.
Notorious B.I.G., Tupac. I was outside watching, kids walking around with the small boom box, with the built-in mics, the little radios with the built-in mics, with the cassettes, bumping Biggie. That was, that's what I was seeing outside when I was playing outside.
So you would be outside watching people with the boom boxes giving you like one vibe. Then like when you're inside, you got your mom. Is she playing like the radio? Does she have records? Like you said, she was bumping stuff when she was cleaning. Like how did that go down?
It all depends, really. Um, Turn on to FM radio, Spanish. She had the cassettes as well. My father was heavy on the cassettes.
Mm.
We didn't have vinyl, not that I can remember. We did, but I just can't remember how much vinyl.
Right, right.
So it was a combination of both. Outside it was more because growing up in the Bronx, I wasn't in a Hispanic dominated block. Um, so that's why I got most of the English. In the house. It was still English, but it was hip hop Spanish.
Right. And when you were young, did you care about the music personally, or was it more just like a backdrop to your life?
It's like a backdrop, honestly. I didn't I knew music was always in the house. Um, I wasn't completely drawn to it. Not that I ignored it. I'm a fan of music before I'm the artist. So
Right.
I was always, Wu Tang. I was always around it, but it wasn't until I got older where it was like, oh, and that's because of my brother. But I've always music was always around.
Right. So before you were into music, what were you into? Were you into like comic books, video games, drawing? Like what kind of kept you occupied as a young one?
Getting in trouble. Um, Playing basketball. I wasn't a comic book person. I was more a wrestling head.
Okay.
Um, and growing up, that was my thing. Like, I don't know, you can explain Dragon Ball Z to me and I won't know anything, but we could talk about Royal Rumble 1994. You know what I mean? So that was what I was into. That's
right.
to this day. But growing up, like I didn't know anything about anime. I didn't know anything of that nature. Pokemon, never got into it. Digimon, never got into it. But we could talk about, WrestleMania 10, Bret Hart beating Yokozuna. So, that's what I grew up
Right.
watching, listening to.
That's dope. So like, you're out there cruising around with the wrestling and whatnot, being a youngster. At what point, like, does music take a more significant role? I know you briefly mentioned your brother. I'm not sure if he played the part in that, but if you could kind of, maybe if you could think of the specific song where you first heard it and you were like, "Yo, that's my shit."
I would say, well, as far as my brother's concerned, I was intrigued when he used to go in the room and record. Again, we
Right.
like this is like the radios with the built-in mics. You got the boombox for the instrumental, and then you got the small radio with the built-in mic to, like record, right? Like there was no punching in, there was one take.
Hmm.
So I used to write like I would know what he recorded and I would do a parody, but it wasn't real like music didn't get a hold of me, controlled me until I came across Eminem and Pun. Because those were the two that was like, oh, you can be this good. And I'm talking about like the lyrical part. Um, and they were both like those two were both like my brother was both times is like, yo, there's this white boy that dropped. Um, he goes by the name of Eminem. Like, oh, where? Or then in both time I happened to be staying over my uncle's house. And both times when we spoke on the phone, it's like, yo, there's this fat rapper. He goes by the name of Big Pun. You got to see this music video. It's funny but dope. Both times. Again, like music, I was always a fan of music, and I'm super familiar with the music that's playing. Loved listening to it, but it wasn't. It was like a light bulb that's like, oh, you could be this good, and
Right.
that's what made me actually stop writing dark parody lyrics and started like really pushing my pen.
Right. So basically, Eminem and Big Pun made you take it serious. But do you remember how old you were when you started doing this parody thing for your brother? Can you go into a bit more of that? So, like, your brother was like already like rapping and taking it seriously.
Yeah, he was in the process of, taking it seriously. It was the Dungeon Family. What was the song? I forgot the name. The music video's out too. It was a Dungeon Family instrumental, and that was the first beat I heard him rap on.
Right.
Um, and so I would basically play off of some of his lyrics, but my own twist to it. Super, not parody isn't joke parody, but like my own version of it, but
Right.
like
Hmm.
dark, um, undergroundish. And that was really, I want to say 11, 12,
Okay.
because my
Okay.
cousin Hectech recorded my very first song at 13. So I would say like 11, 12 years old. That's when I really like that's when I started writing.
So you started
Word.
doing the.
Shout out to Heck Tech. Heck Tech
Yeah.
will be DJing the event that we got going
Oh,
on
that's hard. Damn,
on
that's like a full
June
circle
6th.
situation.
Yeah, no,
Mm-hmm.
like that. I always considered Heck my Yoda when it comes to like, like my musical journey, because I tell people when y'all see me on these festivals, go blame him. Cause for years he was drilling it in my mind, like, yo, the festivals, you gotta do a record for the mommies, boom, boom, boom. I got my
Mm-hmm.
first dose in 2019 and there was no turning back.
That's
Word.
amazing. Record for the mommies is the key to the festivals. That's got to be a gem right there. Like a one
Yeah.
sentence gem. um, so yeah, so you're like 11, and you know your brother's rapping, and this kind of gets you into writing, but based on what he's already done, and
Mhm.
then you encounter Eminem, Big Pun. This makes you go, damn, I gotta actually try now. And then this leads to how do you meet Hectech, and like how do you get to this point where you're actually recording your first song at 13 years old, which, to be honest, is pretty impressive considering that
Yeah.
it's not like the the modern Pro Tools era. It might be the early Pro Tools era, but it's not the modern, super cheap, everybody's recording at home era. So how do you, at 13, get to a point where you're making your first song?
All right, so here's the beautiful story, right? Heck is my cousin. That's family. So I used to always see him tell my brother that he got beats. And then it got, I've seen it happen, like the engagement, but never chimed in. So one day I knew my cousin's address, right? And I wrote him a letter. Mind you, I could have just called him, but I wrote him a letter.
Like
And I
pen
even
and
put,
paper.
yeah. Like I can't remember word for word what was in the letter, but it was like my pitch, right? And even in the phone, even we put the phone number at the end, like, and I mailed it. I mailed him a letter when I could have just called him. Mailed him a
Right.
letter and basically just told him, like rapping and like to, get on one of his beats, boom, boom. He got the letter, read it, called me, and you know, I went to
He did not mail you a letter back.
no,
No, he
no,
did
no.
not.
He went about it the right way. I kind of like I went about it a little cheesy, but
Hold
being
on.
that
Nah,
young,
Nah, because think about it. He called you back. So maybe you could say you did go about it the right way. And had you just
right,
called him, he might not have taken you as seriously. I'm just going to throw it out
right,
there.
hey, it's probably
right.
hey, good point. So then we I forgot how I came across the beat. I believe I went to the Bronx, to where he's at, was going
Mhm.
through beats, came across the beat that would be my first song, and I happens to feature my brother.
Word.
So it's gritty, underground, um, and to even have my brother on it was like, yo, like my brother's so seasoned.
It was a
It was
family
like,
affair.
yeah, it was like
Hectic,
effortless.
your cousin, producing, you and your
Yeah,
brother on the track.
yeah. I wish I had that song. It's such a like staple in who I am, and that's how that formed. And ever since then, he's just like my cousin had a notebook with like handwritten record labels, the address, phone numbers. Like we're talking like a
Oh
composition
yeah,
book.
Tech still has a lot of that. Like
Yeah,
he
no,
still
like
has a bunch of record label addresses and
it's
all that.
scary.
Yeah,
But that's how that happened, and ever since then, like my cousin has just been like he's pushed me in the direction I needed to push, and I just had to take the ball and run it till infinity. Not even
Right.
end
word.
zone, like to infinity.
Right. So were you going by Ray Pearson back when you were young?
No, I went by I started off I started off with Ray Rex Killer. Now, this is like super early, 11, 12 years old, underground, Ray Rex Killer. Then my brother gave me the name Tactical because of the many meanings to it. Is like, all right, I can use that as being versatile. Um, and then it got to the point where there was supposed to be a performance where the headliner was Redman. And I was asked to perform in the event, but then was taken off the bill because the person that was doing the event felt like my name was too underground in comparison to the other artists that he booked. It would have made me look like I was out of place, and I'm just like, if
It's
there's
so weird.
anybody that's
There's
lyrical, it
such
is
there's
Redman.
there's such it's such old weird shit in the industry
Whoa.
that's like
That's a
what? Like that's the weirdest, you
Mm-hmm.
know,
like we look
non
at the flyer and you're like
answer
tactical stands
answer.
out too.
Yeah, so
Tactical is too lyrical. We don't want
because
Ooh.
that.
yeah,
Like
because
what?
my name just looked too dark, too underground, it
Which is
was
another
just
thing, which
like,
is like, how is that dark or underground? Neither. You know,
I
it's
mean,
just a word.
I don't even think the event happened, but the
Word.
the the fact that I was asked to do it, which was an automatic yes, like there was no way I was not gonna do it.
Right.
And then to be told like, like things change, we feel like, your name is too underground. And this was somebody that I was supposed to be like in talks with for him to manage me. Like I went through a whole name change and just for them to try to like keep me boxed in, but then oh, you're just too lyrical, you're too underground. Meanwhile, you're not like it's weird, but like it was a
That
blessing though. It was a
nah,
pure blessing.
every everything's a blessing, right?
Yeah,
All these things that like good and bad. What I've learned throughout the years is that the sometimes the bad is even better than the good because you learn more lessons with the bad than you do with the good. With the good, you really just learn, not much, you just, oh, this got me a win, let me do this again, you know what I mean?
right.
But with losses, it gives you more to build on, more to go back to the drawing board with. So yeah, totally understandable. And so this person that you changed your name for at that time, they were, I would assume, in the music industry, or like they had some sort of like background in managing or something of that nature?
Yes and no. I think this person, I mean, I'm not gonna mention a name, but like this person was
Valid.
heavy on the EO dub, Jesse. Like he knows those guys. So like, yeah, there were places he could have there were rooms he could have put me in. No Diddy. Um, he could have definitely introduced me to certain people, got me into certain shows. But I think it was like, in a sense, I feel like he was a bit of a hypocrite for what he wanted me to do. He wanted me
Right.
to dumb my sound down to a Gucci Mane level. But meanwhile, he's showing heavy support for a group of artists that are lyrical. Not lyrical like super lyrical, but the content that they putting out, it would be in that realm. Um, so once I realized that, it was just like, and I'm not again like me going from tactical to just my name. I wasn't gonna try to like think of another name to go off of. So it was like, you know what? I'm not even gonna break my mind trying to come up with a name for myself. I'm just gonna Ray Pearson.
Right.
So that there's no way you can box me in because I can
It's just your
do
name.
yeah, I can do many things with my pen as far as like concept, style of music. I could do almost any type of song. But yeah, that's how that whole situation with the name change came about. Again, it was a blessing.
Right.
That's a
Nah, for
fact. There's
sure. I
also
mean,
an interesting point because while it's ridiculous that that person judged your name on a flyer, it means that other people judge names on flyers. Like that's obviously a thing. And maybe not like
mm,
all the time.
I mean, yeah, but no. Like, there's no, right? Like, it's just the name. Like, you don't know if you don't know.
Right.
Like, you
Right.
don't know. You could see a name, and it could be like fucking Super Ray Gun. You know what I mean? And you're like, oh, you know, this guy's gonna make this type of music, and he doesn't. He makes
Right.
fucking glitch hop. You know what I mean? Like, there's
Right.
no, and I mean, I think that if anything, the only way you can kind of tell what kind of an artist is really is the bill that they're on. Because usually artists like to have other acts on their bill that are somewhat derivative and reminiscent of their act. So 3 6 Mafia would probably like to have other turned up Southern Memphis artists on
Mhm.
their bill. You know what I mean? I think that this Boricua Bash is like probably one of the opposite versions of that, where like mostly every act is like kind of different than each other, right? Like there's a reggaeton act, there's a pop act, there's a R&B rap act, there's a, a hip hop duo, there's and everybody seems to make different, like the Body Boys, they make real like hood New York type of music. You know what I'm saying? Like they come from like the Locks school of music making, essentially. You know what I mean? Um, we all kind of make different music from each other. So it's just like, even then, right? If that card exists with us, there's gonna be other cards out there where none of the acts are really reminiscent of each other. You know what I mean? Like the only thing that we all have in common is that we're all kind of like Latinos, bodies, and we're trying to show like the many dimensions of being Boricua in the tri-state area. You know what I mean? But like, there's really no rhyme and reason to it. But like, there's other cards that I'm sure are like that as well. You know what I mean? Where like one act is like Method Man and Redman, and then the next act is fucking 3 6 Mafia, and then the next act is fucking SZA. You know what I mean? And shit like that happens too. So there's
Mhm.
really no rhyme and reason to it. You know what I mean? Like, even though usually, right, like you'll see acts that are that do tend to, like I said, be reminiscent or derivative of each other, but it's not always an automatic. So it's just like, even then you can't, like if I see a bunch of people on the bill for what do you call these guys, Insane Clown Posse, when they do their what you call it, Juggalo
Gathering of the Juggalos.
reunion, gathering of the Juggalos, you can't predict who's on
No, you
that. You
really
know what I mean?
can't. But
Those
to be
guys
honest,
are totally different
but just to
and all
jump on
sorts
that,
of.
the Gathering of the Juggalos is highly a pay to play experience at this point. So when you really get into that world of it, literally anybody could be on the lineup if you're willing to
Right.
put up the bread to be an opener at the Gathering of Juggalos.
Yeah, I knew when they were like fucking 10, 12 years ago, bringing like indie acts that like are like friends of mine and shit like that. But the point being, you know, even that's a perfect example of like, you can't judge a book by its cover. Just because you're gonna be on the Gathering of the Juggalos um uh festival doesn't mean that you're anything like Insane Clown Posse. You know what I mean? So it's just one of those things where it's just like, there really is no, and like, to empathize with you, like, let me tell you something, like I have nothing but like awful, god awful experiences in the music industry of like, I remember I had a dude that was like a friend trying to like semi manage me, and he just had some connects over at Complex. Um, you know, when they were still a magazine and doing the online thing. And he sent like a song of mine over there, and like whoever listened to it was like, "Oh, this sounds like he's reaching for radio." And the song itself was just like 2 minutes 45 seconds of me just fucking rapping my ass off. It's not even a hook on the song, so it's just like, reaching for radio. How, fam? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
technically speaking, there's a song of like 200 bars, and it's just me going the fuck off. How is that reaching for radio? You know what I mean? But like, people have their perceptions and the things that they carry with them, and everybody has their own um preconceived judgments that they carry with them,
Mhm.
and it just is what it is. You know what I mean? Everybody has their preconceived notions that they carry with them into like listening to new artists, and they carry that bullshit with them, and it's all shit that they're carrying with them of their own. You know what I mean? And that happens a lot too, where like people are they get treated a certain way in the music industry, and then instead of becoming better and like changing things, they just become exactly the same thing that they got gate kept against. You know what I mean? The same bullshit that gate kept them out of the system is the same bullshit that they do to the next person. That is just like, why? Like, you can change things now. You can
Yeah,
make things different, and you choose to just do the same fucking shit that everybody else is doing. Like, bruh, way
because
to not improve humanity, sir.
they're brainwashed into thinking that this formula is it. And I can
Yeah,
only speak from within this bubble of a tri-state that we live in, there because radio and mainstream media tells you a song that's 4 months old is old. You got to keep
yeah,
pumping out music. How is the record gonna grow if you're not focused on it? So they tell you
yeah,
they put an expiration date on music. They put an expiration on your age.
yeah,
Mm.
And because we're in this bubble where it's like constant brainwash, so they think, oh, this is what's playing on the radio every 60 seconds. I gotta do this. I gotta do drill
yeah.
because it's the mind is the brainwash that got everybody thinking this way.
Yeah, I tell people all the time. I was just talking with some young artists that I'm friends with, and we were just talking about like because I played them a song, and they were like, "You're not afraid to put that out because it's so long," and I was like, "No, there's no rules to this shit, bro. There's no like is the trend right now for 1 minute 59 second songs, 2 minute songs, you know what I
But
mean?
also, it's like
Yes, absolutely, that's the trend, but that's not what you have to subject yourself to. You don't have to say no to the 12-minute song. You can fucking do whatever the fuck you want.
right.
It's called art, bro. There's no rules to art. When fucking when what's his name? When Basquiat was making art, when fucking Van Gogh was making art, they didn't fucking think to themselves like, "Oh man, what are the rules that Leonardo da Vinci fucking followed when making art?" Like, no, they just fucking made art. You know what I mean? You just fucking make art, and you
Facts.
make what the fuck is in your heart, and that's it. And you can either take it or leave it. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, what's most important is doing what's in your heart, because trying to follow what other people are doing and the patterns that other people are like following themselves isn't going to help you get anywhere, you know, more
Facts.
productive than what your own shit is taking you to.
Also, it's like just taking into like account why songs are trending short, and it's honestly a lot of the times just to manipulate stream values. Because like let's be real, it's easier to push a 2 minute song and get those numbers up than it is to push a 5 minute song and get those numbers up. But also to Flacco's point, like Sicko Mode, I'm pretty sure was like number one everywhere, and that shit's over 5 minutes long, right? Like people can kind of create whatever they want to do, but a lot of times people aren't. A lot of people who make music aren't necessarily trying to create art. So what they're doing is they're following what the marketers are telling them to do, and they're looking at it from a very product-driven point of view. And then you got the artist side of things, where now it's a whole different game, and
Mhm.
it might be harder to sell the art, but I feel like often if you're true to yourself with your art, it's easier to get fans that will support you through your endeavors, whatever they might be. And yeah, so it's like it's worth kind of just creating
I
what you
mean,
think is
listen, it works kind of like the way fashion works. You know what I mean? Um, the fashion style right now is no V-necks. And it takes a brave motherfucker to just be like, I don't care what everybody else is doing. I'm gonna wear a V-neck to make other people be like, oh, you know what? I really miss V-necks. And then next thing you know, everybody's wearing V-necks. Or the same thing with like ankle socks, right? Like ankle socks are not the wave. That's so old. That's for old people. We're all wearing tube socks. And then fucking 8 years into the tube socks thing, one guy's just like, man, I had no socks left and I wore my ankle socks. And then it makes everybody around him be like, or them be like, man, I miss ankle socks. I really want to fucking, and then everybody starts wearing ankle socks again. You know what I mean? The same thing with like, right? It was things were just tight, things were just form fitting. Now they're going back to baggy. So it's just one of those things where it's just like it takes one brave soul to pop their collar in an era of nobody popping their collar to make everybody else go back to popping their fucking collar. You know what I mean? And
Right.
the same thing applies with music. Eventually, there's gonna be one brave soul that's like, "Yo, my whole project is fucking 7+ minute songs." You know what I mean? Like, there's no song shorter than 5 minutes on this project. They're all long songs. And then next thing you know, things are right back. You know what I mean? You got a fucking 12-minute hit, and then people are like, "Oh man, chasing a 12-minute hit all over the place." You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So
Yeah, high
there's no
key, I
rhyme or
would love
reason to
that.
this shit.
I would love it if all of a sudden everybody's trying to make like these 15-minute bangers and having to like learn real. Because at that, when you're writing songs at that length, you got to be real creative. You ain't just being able to. You know what? I could just see somehow like it'd be 15 minutes of the same line repeated, and kids will turn that into a hit. It'll just be the most ridiculous shit ever. And I will not process it well, but they will love it, and that will just be what it will be.
Yeah, no, Rome wasn't built in a day, but
Mhm.
mainstream will have these artists thinking Rome is built the second their engineer bounced the record, or you can build Rome in 90 days.
Mm. Nah, that's a fact. Still, alright, let's go back to your like life story, because from what I could tell, we
Right.
have you at like 13 years old with your first song,
Mhm.
and then
Where did you go to elementary school, junior high?
Um,
Because that's the ages that we've covered so far, right? Where'd you go to elementary school?
up until I moved out of the Bronx, I was going PS 246 on the Grand Concourse up until about the fourth grade. Then, with issues happening on my block and between my parents, we moved out of the Bronx like sudden. Like there was no, like it was just like pack up what you need and let's go. Um Moved to Union City. Crazy because after we moved, like a day or two later after we moved, it's like people knew we moved. They broke in to the house, to the apartment, and like trashed it. Like the landlord thought we left and just we trashed the place and left. Um, Moved to Union City. We're staying in my grandmother's house for like maybe I want to say half a year, and within that year, we enrolled in PS number 5 in Jersey City. Um, Still fourth grade, mid-year, and I was that's I was in number 5 from fourth grade up until I graduated.
that's like high
Where
school or middle school, or I don't know when the graduation
Um,
is.
eighth grade.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah,
then
because a lot of
from
schools out here sometimes tend to go. It's either like you do elementary school and junior high and high
mhm.
school, or your elementary school is also with your junior high school, and you stay from in the same school from kindergarten all the way through eighth grade.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Then
I went
then you go to high school after that,
mhm.
wherever else, and that's till grade 12.
12.
Uh,
9. Yeah, from 9 to 12.
from 9 to
Hmm.
12, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, fair enough. Definitely
Yeah,
different
no.
than Quebec.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Jersey City has a lot of bragging rights when it comes to me, because Jersey City is where I picked up when I wrote my first rhyme. So like when I say like Jersey City is like home away from home for me, it's like they have bragging rights. Like I started this musical journey while living in Jersey City.
Right.
Um,
Uh,
Word.
so I was again 11, 12 years old, Jersey City, PS number 5, fourth grade. I think I got held back because I transferred mid-year, so I wasn't able to catch up on time. You know, Bronx teaching in Jersey City completely different, and I victim of that.
Right.
And but then, that second year, fourth grade, that's when everything just started happening.
So, um, as a young rapper and pursuing all of this, what is it like? Are you performing at like parties? Do you like do the lunchtime battle thing? Like what's it kind of like being a teenage rapper back in the day?
Oof. Um, being a perform well, I used to sneak into there was an open mic that they were doing in Union City. Right. This is like freshman year high school. 8 Mile is out. So battled in the gym. Like it was 8 Mile was hot. Everybody felt like they were a battle rapper. I had to like show show kids in high school as a freshman, I could hold my own. Yeah, I'm my brother's younger brother, but I'm not the one to fuck with. Sorry, my bad. I'm
Right.
not the one to mess with.
No, you can swear.
No, you
Um,
good. You could curse.
no,
There's
I
no
usually
problem.
don't. I usually don't do that. I'm not the type of like, oh, could I curse? No. That's my apologies. So
I mean, fair.
I I snuck. I there was an open mic in Union City, and I snuck in 2 times. Of course, with my parents, but I snuck in like maybe like I want to say an hour, 2 hours before um the bouncers got there to avoid being ID'd. 13 years old in a lounge, instrumentals, no backing vocals, not even the chorus, just straight through. That's why it's like when I say like these demo tapes, built-in mics, cassette tapes, you one take, that's because that's how I built myself to get through an entire song one take. So performing, same thing. There's no backing vocals, there's no chorus laid down. I was performing songs that weren't even recorded officially. I was writing them, learning them, performing them.
Mm.
Um, and this is me at 13, going to like competitions, not winning, but still holding my own and trying to build up a name as tactical. And yeah, I was signed to an indie label at one point, and we went to, I don't know if and anybody knows Reg Rock, but he had a show in New York at one time, and I performed, and I literally had to sit in the corner close to the door. Like I couldn't move from that spot unless I was getting ready to perform because I was underage. So it's like nothing but like a dap and you're gonna perform. So like being underage and getting into certain places to perform, it was challenging, but through God's willpower, I was able to get into certain shows to perform as a teenager.
That's dope. I know that I've heard stories in Montreal of teenagers and how they have to like be left in the backstage room the entire night except for the 15 minutes that they're on stage performing. Then they're escorted
Mhm.
right in back of the back room. No booze can be brought near them. Like they have a whole bunch of rules for teenagers to perform in bars should they be booked. But it's dope to like hear that because like a lot of people don't get that type of exposure to the industry at that level or even any kind of like there's not that many like 13, 14 year olds that are like performing in bars and shit just or on radio in general. It's not a common thing you hear across interviews, which is pretty commendable if like we're being honest about that.
Like the crazy thing about it, honestly, and looking at it now, I wish in some sense social media was a thing when I was 13, because the access that young artists have nowadays. Oh, I can't go to perform in a lounge. All right, I'm gonna build me a little following on social media. I'm gonna find a location that like a rehearsal studio that has a
Hmm.
mic, and I'm just gonna live stream a performance. And I'm gonna do that until it starts picking up traction, and then I'm gonna make them book me. I didn't have that luxury. I have what, MySpace, you
Right.
know? So it's like the access that this generation has nowadays, you don't need to get booked at a lounge. All you have to do is do something, start building a following, a little solid following. All right, now I'm gonna do this. The first one off rip, I'm gonna do a free live stream. Might do two, might do three live streams performing. Don't go crazy, but I'm gonna do that. And so it's like, all right, now it's picking up pay-per-view. All I gotta do is take a live embedded code, put it on a one-page website. Yo, you want to see me? PayPal me this. I'll give you the access link. There's
Okay.
so many, like, I came up in the you had to have skills era. I didn't have what the new generation today has. I wish I did. You don't
Yeah,
need they don't need to get booked at a bar. They can just do it themselves.
I mean, just to give you a little more credit than I think you're giving yourself, what you described as a funnel and an implementation of a virtual concert is still skills, just maybe slightly different skills in a different domain, but the ease upon which you're adapting to the digital era is very impressive and also a testament to you as an artist and your ability to create. Because I know a lot of people who struggle to adapt to that world and who you could have said everything you just said and they'll never be able to wrap their head around actually rapping in a room to the internet, like so in a sense I think that it's just proof of you being versatile rather than just also the tools out there because everyone can do it but not everyone will do it.
Right.
They're like for a while, and even still to this day, in some senses, I stood away from showcases because I would be in certain showcases where it's like first place, second place, third place, room full of artists. How do I benefit in a room full of artists?
Hmm.
Based off the showcases I was getting involved with, you know, along my journey. So I was like, well, COVID, okay, what if I dropped an EP and we were limited at this point, we were limited to how many people could be in a room party. How about I do an EP, do a listening party, live stream it, make the main focus of my guest list or attendees be media. Yeah, you want to have a couple of the homies there, but my primary focus was media. Let's get the media. I'm not going to charge anybody to come because my focus was do the listening, do do a like a press conference style. Anybody who wants to ask questions about the EP, then perform while it's still live stream. That was my thought process because it's like, all right, now let me talk about let me back up my talk. Did it in Jersey, um, where it used to be the Drewski spot, Crave Cave. That's where it is now, and that was my way of like, yo, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it my way because I saw what some of these artists that was winning. There were no judges there to even judge them. So it looked like, I'm like, oh, this shit was decided before like this person even got on stage. I
Hmm.
did a show one time and there was like, oh, if you leave, you're disqualified.
Right. So hold on, your showcases are contests where like people win stuff.
There are showcases where it is contests, and it's like, I don't know, first place you sit down with a record label A&R, second
Right.
place you get a 2 hour free studio session, third place you probably get a free beat that's not even exclusive rights. And I just always looked at those type of showcases like, well, you're gonna stack the bill with performers. There's gonna be more performers in the room than there is actually people, and that's the difference between, for me, showcases and festivals. Showcases, I feel like I'm performing um in front of people. Festivals, I'm performing for people along, everything that I've experienced and what I've saw. Like when I was when I did that I did the finals of a competition when I was 13, 14. There were people telling me, "Oh, you should have won." But the two artists that won, the judges weren't even there in the room to even judge them. And one of the producers that I've worked with, one of the performers that performed like after me, the way he was even introduced to the stage, the producer leaned over, he's like, "Yo, Ray, this guy, based off how he was just introduced to the stage, he's winning." Lo and behold, he was one of the winners that night. There were two winners, and it's not the first time that that's happened to me. That's why showcases, this whole first, second, third place thing, I have no interest in performing in those type of shows because as an artist, I don't feel like I could benefit from it.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's usually industry stuff. Um Industry showcases are built like that, and they're really just meant to like give a name to the artists that are winning, which is like just kind of like a label situation. The label is just like how do we make this artist look like they came up the way anybody else would have came up? All right, boom, let's put together a showcase. Let's have a bunch of artists and let's have him win the showcase. And then all the artists are really like paying to be seen by somebody at this label, but they're never gonna win. They're never gonna see anybody at that label. Um, which is also where the idea of like don't pay to perform comes from in the tri-state area, because there was so many showcases that would have you pay to perform in front of uh, so-called industry people, and it just nothing ever would come from it. You know what I mean? So it's just one of those things where it's just like it's kind of like during COVID when everybody was getting those DMs from Fat Joe and
The
Jadakiss
mixtapes,
about the mixtapes, and being Cassidy and being featured on like a mixtape with Fabulous or something like that, and it's just like, bro, that none of this shit is gonna go anywhere. Like I remember Jess. This is the second time that we mentioned Jess. That is the host of Boricua Bash, Jess James Figueroa. He's one of the first people that was during COVID. Um, we were not sequestering the way we were supposed to. We were around each other heavy, and we like everybody else went inside to hide from COVID, and me and Jess were outside like a motherfucker. That was when we really like got started with this Liddy Bros thing, and we were just outside a lot. And I remember the moment um, he got the DM from I believe it was Jadakiss account. Like he went to Jadakiss account and it looked official and looked real, and I was just like, bro, that just sounds made up like a motherfucker, bro.
mm-hmm.
Like what? Like give them how much are they asking for? Like, bro, you already know what time it is. We don't give up money for nothing. Like not to shit like that. Not when we're already independent artists working to get ourselves known and heard. Um, and so we just didn't. And then lo and behold, later on, everybody comes to find out that it's a one big scam, and everybody's getting scammed, and all these artists are
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
online talking about getting the same
Yeah.
DM.
And you get your hopes up for that shit. Bro, I opened for Dave East, and then Dave East hit me on some pay to feature with him thing after. And I don't know if it was Dave East or Dave East people, but I was like, wow, did he like see my No, he did not see my shit. It was just some, wow, your stuff's fire. Want to pay me for a feature? And I was like, damn. All right.
Yeah, like there was
Moved
some shit
on.
on Facebook, and I threw it into the Google Translator about like, yo, this is a scam. Drop the comment. Whoever was controlling Jada's account responded under that, like, that I've heard you, I believe in you, I think you should get on. And it's like clearly,
Right,
like, I'm not dumb.
right,
I'm not dumb. Like the moment this started taking off, and to be fair, in a sense, I get it. COVID, ain't nobody performing. At least I
right,
know out here ain't nobody performing. Venues are
right.
shut down. There's no income because the streams ain't making up for it because they're relying on maybe selling merch at shows. So it's like, okay, how we gonna put $1 in our pocket? But not necessarily
Right.
Jadakiss, but like other artists. So it's like, okay, they get involved with whoever is doing these scam mixtapes. I don't know what's the percentage between the person and the actual artist. Like I remember the Fat Joe tape, so they say it's nothing but a playlist, but I remember seeing the mixtape on like come up in the Google search.
Mm-hmm.
The artwork trash, trash.
Trash. Mm-hmm.
And it's like I can't believe you people thought that Fat Joe believed in you.
Right.
And it was
Uh,
and it's not saying that Fat Joe doesn't believe in any artist, but being the situation, you really thought you were gonna get on a
so
mix
it's
tape.
like, cause here's the thing. It's the same era with the Amino Domini features, where if
Mm-hmm.
you're paying to have like a Tupac verse somehow or some shit like that. Um, Even sometimes those aren't actually licensed, is what I've learned. I digress. Um, Basically, like, you have people who are also playlisting heavy. So at the time, I don't think we knew yet how bullshit it was. So you can see how, like, somebody's like, oh shit, a Fat Joe playlist type thing on Spotify. Oh my gosh, this, that, the next thing. People are going to see that and it's going to pop off a bit. It's mad naive, but I've also talked to people who did do some of these pay for feature things, maybe more directly, like not like in the more goofy ways, but they like certain artists sell features and that's just what it is. And
Mm-hmm.
over time, clocking enough of them did have benefit for some people. So I could see how like you could get misled by this situation at the time, especially if you're at home and it's like, well, what, $500 and I'm on a mixtape with Fat Joe. If you have the bread,
And
it's
that
a
and
different.
and that's crazy because there are artists that will get suckered into these situations. Like there's a showcase, and I'm not gonna name drop the person that's charging 599 for a 5 minute set. There's no way I'm paying that. Till this
Right.
day, there are still these
Hold on,
showcases.
and to my Canadians out there, that's U.S. dollars, so it's even higher in my money. That's like 1,000 Canadian.
So it's like,
It would
so
be
there's
like probably like 700 or something like that.
No, it's
750.
really that bad right now. I'm
Hold
about
on,
to
let me
go.
see.
I'm
I
about to
got you. Let's
convert
go to Google
200
Chat.
US dollars to America. 200. I need 200 US dollars for a thing in a couple of weeks. It's gonna run me 285 Canadian to buy 200 US dollars. I mean, it's just what
It
it is.
says that 600 American would equal $824 Canadian.
Fair. I guess in
yeah,
Price is Right rules, I lose.
yeah. So like, I wouldn't know. There's no way I would pay that. But the sad thing about it is there are artists that would pay it.
There are. There are.
I know a
for
lot
sure.
who do, especially like I don't know about the options out where you're at, but in the current state of things in Montreal, as an example, most opportunities are at least ticket flipping, if not direct pay to play. And if I want to go anywhere that's not Montreal, so there is the festivals, which I would love to touch on after, and that's a whole different circuit. But when you get into the, we'll call it the opening for people, there's a whole pipeline where artists, especially from places like New York and New Jersey, and where the classic old heads will come, and the entire business model is to sell to artists such as myself and be like, bro, buy the ticket pack and flip it, figure it out. And so what ends up happening is a lot of artists cop the ticket pack and cannot flip it. So it just kind of turns into a pay to play situation. Now, to be fair, going back to something Flacco touched on, there should be a bit more of a degree of screening in this where somehow I'm opening for Smith and Wesson, and you gotta like ask the question of how does that make sense? It did not make sense. It was a great blessing for me, but does not make sense at a practical level of programming that show, in my little opinion. So like this model really just allows anybody with the funds can open, but it doesn't necessarily create these long-lasting fan relationships, because often what happens is the people who do come to these shows do not give I've done a lot of opening for people I maybe shouldn't have, and all I learned is that gangsters don't fuck with me, and valid.
That also, it's like, you know what it's like? It's similar to the beginning of YouTube days when guys would do like on the lollipop, like make space on lollipop for their own verse. And then it would be like Lil Wayne lollipop remix featuring Ray Pearson. And it's just like that's not gonna last. Like you can sucker 100,000 Lil Wayne fans to click on that video, and you'll have a video with 100,000 clicks, but you're never gonna have a channel with 100,000 subscribers off of
Facts.
that model. Off that model. That model won't ever work for genuine engagement and building an audience. It'll work for clickbait, one time only situation. It's not the type of situation that you build a fan base off of. I
Right.
mean, ironically, you were talking about, COVID, and like I could tell you, right, as an artist during COVID, right, like me and Holden met in COVID
Facts.
because my plan was fucking strategically sound. I've always had a pretty strong fan base that supported me all the way from battle rap days and grind time to now, and I sold $100 album packages, and the package came with like a Litty Bros bandana, some pens, a CD, a corkscrew, because the album was called Champagne and Cocaine. So the corkscrew was like indicative of the champagne. The pens were meant to be broken down and opened so that you could fucking snort cocaine with the fucking straw part of the pen, right? Um, there were buttons. There were like little pins in the package. There were physical CDs. There were bandanas. There were, what else was in the package? I'm forgetting something here. But the point
Lighters.
is, it was lighters. The Liddy Bro lighters were in the package. The point is, though, like it was a dope little package. It was definitely worth
That was
like
really
it
nice.
wasn't it wasn't like the type of package that like, I spent $10 and was trying to make a super come up. Like, nah, it was like, yo, I spent like, it was pretty much like $50 worth of merch type shit. You know what I'm saying? Um, and then profit. But yeah, it worked out. We sold maybe like a majority of it. We printed up like 100. We sold like maybe close to 70 something, and then the rest of them we kind of just gave away. I think I still have maybe like 5 packages worth left here, you know what I mean, memorabilia type shit. um but yeah, it was just one of those things where like, yo, print up a package that's worthwhile and people will support you, you know what I'm saying? Give them something that they're going to want to buy, they're going to buy into it, which is uh totally stolen. The idea was totally stolen from Nipsey Hussle, you know what I'm saying? Except instead of just selling $100 CD, it was a package that I put together, you know what I mean? But yeah, people fucking support it. You know what I'm saying? And Holden, uh, our engineer for that album was a homie up in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, and he hardly ever like he's a like an engineer that like I always tell people that he like might as well have been a New Yorker because he like doesn't like he doesn't just promote people just because he works with them. You know what I'm saying? Like he doesn't like, oh, this artist was just in my studio, you should check out his music just because they paid for time to work out of his studio. You know what I mean? So like he would rarely ever really promote stuff that he's working on, but he promoted our album when he was working with us on it. And it caught Holden's attention because he was like, yo, Merker never promotes
He does
anybody's
not.
music. So let me check this out. And he checked it out, and then he came across like the packages and everything, and then it was like, yo, he was running a YouTube channel on his own, doing album reviews
Mm.
and occasional interviews.
I
And
was just getting
so
started back then with interviews.
yeah, he did album reviews for the most part. So he like did
Yeah.
an album review for us for that album, but it was like super thorough, like wildly thorough album review, like of every single track. And I was just like, yo, this is wild dope. We should do an interview before he even asked me. You know what I mean? It's for the interview. I was like, we should do an interview. And he was like, word, let's do it. And he interviewed me. And then I was like, yo, you know what?
That shit was like
This
4 hours long.
yeah, I was like, this is dope. We should do an interview thing together. I'll bring like my like underground rap friends to the table, and we'll interview them.
And now
And
you're the 82nd person.
that we interview,
Mm.
we're 5 years in the game now because we started
Yes, sir.
near the
It
we
was end
started
of
actually
2020, end of 2020, like
end of
October.
2020
We
because we
did
dropped
our
the album
interview
9/11.
around then, and then our official kickoff with our interviews was end of December 2020.
Right, right.
So we're about
So December
four and a
2020,
half
we're
years
like
in. Four and a
yeah,
half
four
years.
and a half years in, but like 5 years right around the
That's
corner at the
fine.
end of this year.
You
You
can
know what I
round
mean?
up
Definitely
once you hit the
5 years.
half. You can
Yeah,
round.
exactly, for sure. And so, but the point being, you know what I mean, is that like, yo, you got to make your own again, right? Like, you got to make your own everything, And when you're independent, it doesn't always behoove you to go following behind everybody else. You got to fucking pave your own road, and then you got to go over that road like fucking 10, 20 fucking times so that the fucking trail can be an actual trail. You know what I mean? Because if you go over the road one time, you just putting your footprints in an area that ain't never been walked before. It takes you walking that same trail 10 times in order for a trail to be made where it's like, oh, people have walked here before. You know what I mean? And then people will start following behind that trail after that. Um, let's get to some of the comments. Lindell's been in the comments fucking chatting it up. He said, hello. So, to show that was never being biased, that type of thing began in the 80s as far as brainwashing with certain pop songs. Although I wouldn't call it brainwashing as much as I would call it a money grab by record labels. This was like a little while back.
Like
So
Yeah.
way at the
he
beginning.
way at the beginning. So he was talking about, probably what we were early in the conversation about. Then he
Right.
said there can be pros and cons with the new theory of not having a label to go through and growing yourself from your own platform. The pros are that you don't have a label to go through anymore. The cons are you don't have anyone to go through anymore. You know what I mean? Which is true. You know what I mean? There's
Yeah.
some artists that like need some listen, I'm very blessed in the aspect that, like, well, first off, I'm very blessed in the aspect that I'm not fucking shy and I don't mind patting my own fucking back, right? So, like, there goes one thing that I'm already, you know what I mean, doing better than most artists because most artists tend to be very insecure and they don't know when to toot their own horn or when to not toot their own horn. You know what I mean? But like, I've always been really blessed at like, yo, this is like Perspectives is like a name I came up with, right, Holden? Did I come up with Perspectives or what was it? It was
I know that the ultimate spelling was 100% you. The actual
Right.
name was a combination of, but probably
Combination.
you. I don't
This is not the
want
only
that.
thing that I named, right? Like, you probably been in communication with my partner, Mike, who wants to get video of you,
Yeah.
for the IG page, and like, uh, when we were looking to name the get together, I came up with probably like 20 names that were all super solid. You know what I mean? So like, I have like an executive producer's mind, really. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's something that like I've always like done for other artists. So like, you might have heard of like Sarah Connor,
Yeah.
Jess James is my brother, and
Mm-hmm.
I've done wild, like, kind of leading executive producing projects for them. You know what I'm saying? Under my old rap name, Dutch Vega. And so I would do things for them, but like, it's not just them. Like, I've done it for other artists. You know, like, that's just kind of like a thing that I have. I was literally, my nephew is Rai Gennaro. He'll be performing at the Boricua Bash on June 6th at Sugar Mouse, downtown Manhattan. And he is one that, like, he was just talking about, he just did his video this past Friday, and he said something about his performance is going to be lit live raw or something like that, lit live raw. And I was like, yo, we need to name your solo album, your next solo album needs to be called Lit Live Raw. You know what I'm saying? Like, and he just was like, yo, you're a fucking genius. And I'm like, I'm not really that much of a genius. You said it. You know what I mean? It's just me knowing to do the thing in the immediacy of like, oh, that's dope. That's what you need to name your next solo album. You know what I'm saying?
Facts.
And most artists don't have that. You know what I'm saying? Like, most artists don't have that discernment, is what I would call it. You know what I'm saying? And so
Mm.
what Lindell is saying is like true. You know what I mean? Some artists they don't have anybody to go through with any of their decision making, and then sometimes their decision making isn't always the most soundest decision making when it comes to being an artist, and that's where some artists do lose out. And he just finished commenting, most of the rappers you still listen to all went through labels, being a bad label or not a bad label. All
Mm-hmm.
of them had professional guidance, rather the label was shady or not, whether the label was shady or not, I guess what
Right.
he's saying. Um, which is absolutely true. You know what I mean? And that is like a benefit of like record labels, is like, yo, you now have a building worth of people thinking for you. Also, though, that can be where you fuck up. You know what I mean? Listen, the record labels thought Frank Ocean was not the wave. You know what I mean? He was at Def Jam Records. He had that ultra mixtape that he put out at Def Jam Records. And they all were like, nah, this ain't it, buddy. This ain't it, pal. You know what I'm saying? And they were sitting on a gold mine and they were like, this ain't it, pal. And what does he do? He says, you know what? Fuck you guys. I'm going to put this shit out on my own. Puts it out on his fucking own, makes it a free mixtape for people to just download, and people go and fucking download it in fucking droves. And then he pays the right fucking promotions to get that shit in the right places on the right fucking blog spots and blogs. And next thing you know, Frank Ocean is one of the hugest fucking artists of our fucking lifetime. You know what I mean? So, like, again, like he said, you know, sometimes it's to the benefit of an artist, sometimes it's to the detriment of an artist. And there really
Yeah.
is no rhyme or reason to.
But it's
I was
also
literally just talking to the homies about this same situation where, like, look, when Jodeci first came out, they thought Mr. Dalvin was gonna be the guy. Light skin, light eyes, curly hair. He was the sex symbol of the group. He's gonna be the one. Then Jodeci comes out, and the skinny, dark skin, dude in the group, Casey, is the one that really becomes a sex symbol. You know what I mean? That the women go crazy over and are at every show screaming and fucking cheering for, because there is no real rhyme and reason to this shit. You know what I mean? We go through these eras of like, yo, there's the top three of every era, right? There's the Biggie, Jay-Z, or Nas of every era. There's the Rakim, KRS, Kane of every era, right? And Drake, J. Cole, Kendrick are the top three dogs of this era. Yo, Big Sean easily was supposed to be in that conversation. He was on Def Jam Records. He had Good Music as his record label. He
Mhm.
had co-signs from Jay-Z and Kanye West. And it just doesn't fucking pan out. Why? Because there's no rhyme and reason to any of this shit. You know what I'm saying? So like you can have a label and it works out for you. You can have a label and it doesn't work out for you. You
Right.
cannot have a label and it works out for you. You could not have a label and it does work out for you. And there really is no rhyme and reason to any of this shit. I think that the most important thing that you do is stay true to yourself as an artist and do the things that motivate you artistically and musically, because that is being genuine to yourself as an artist. And that's really like the shit that like that's the shit that sticks, and that's the shit that's gonna make people stick around as your fans throughout a long period of time.
Facts.
uh
But also, just to touch on that, I think
mhm,
with the label conversation, it's also a question of your personality type. Like somebody like Russ, as an example, doesn't need a label because he want to do it all himself. He want to run his business. He has that hustle in it. And even just talking to you, Ray, I get the feeling that like if you're able to set up a whole pay-per-view stream by yourself, that you're kind of
right.
on that independent hustler mentality where you're willing to build your business. So in that case, maybe a label is less relevant
Mhm.
in this current
Yeah,
era because, but also I was curious about the festival thing. I know Lindell's got that next question. I see it there. Don't worry,
we'll
Lindell.
save it for
But
the end.
but I wanted to touch on the festival thing because
Mhm.
you personally, I've experienced festivals a little bit. A, they always seem to pay, which is amazing. And B, the people at these festivals are so open minded to consume your music, right? And these crowds are so unexpected. Like, you really don't know who's going to be there. And all
Mhm.
of a sudden, you're watching people dance in ways you've never expected, and they're just perceiving you after, and it's all love. And
Yep.
also, those people like to buy merchandise at a higher frequency than, say, your average concert goer, maybe,
Mhm.
because that's just the culture that is built up in these places. So
Right.
I know you said the tech, is it Heck Tech?
Yeah. Heck
DJ
Yeah.
tech.
Hectech.
Yeah, so he had guided you towards festivals, so I was hoping you could kind of touch a bit more on that and go into some of your experiences with getting booked and what it's like for you to be at festivals.
Whoa. What is it like getting booked? It's a challenge. It is a challenge. Um, one,
Fact.
I hate I hate chasing people. I've had this conversation recently more than once because I'm the type of person I don't like repeating myself. So if
Mhm.
I have to keep chasing you, I feel like I'm bothering you. And that is
Right.
probably for me,
I
that
can
is
empathize.
one of the most uncomfortable feelings as a Scorpio. That is
Hmm.
such an uncomfortable feeling
Oh,
for me.
feel
If I
that.
feel like I'm chasing you, I'm bothering you. Despise
Hmm.
it.
I
In
hate
order
that
to
too.
in order to get on some of these stages, is like I gotta keep tapping in,
Yeah.
tag you when I post something so that you see I'm working.
Yep.
Um,
Mm.
so contacting festivals, like I would say like 98%, 98 to 99% of the festivals I've got on, I've hit the people up. Granted, Heck is pointed me in the direction of these festivals. Yo, you need to
Right.
hit up look them up, try to see what's their most recent, maybe if they have footage of their, like, maybe last year, just to get an understanding of, okay, this is how it looks. All right, I'm motivated, I'm gonna hit them up. um it's a challenge, like contacting festivals to get on them. It's a real challenge because even still, like, going from hip hop, because I still, no matter what, I'm always gonna be a hip hop artist. But pushing Latin hip hop is almost like some of these festivals don't even see Latin in the beginning. They just see hip hop. Oh no, we don't really book hip hop artists. No, I understand that. but I'm a Latin hip hop artist, traditional hip hop with Latin instrumentation. So I gotta like defend my music because then it's gonna get ignored, and before they can even click on the first song, they're already like, no, because we don't do this. I understand that and I respect that.
Do you find there's a lot of festivals that push back on hip hop?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But then it's
especially in
like
the
I don't want to
tri-state area.
yeah, like I don't want to seem like a diva because now I got to defend
No, it's
myself.
it's it's a valid feeling. I was just curious because I'm not in your area, and in my city currently, they're cool with some kinds of hip hop. Like they'd probably let me get on stage a lot quicker than other people, as an example. Um, but yeah, so I'm just
Like,
curious. But the reality is like,
yeah, because the thing about the Latin hip hop that I do, I'm able to go into a hip hop show and perform it. And then the next day go to a 116th and perform there too.
Yeah,
Because it's, like it's not one direction. It's like, all right, like he got Latin boom bap. Like who's doing Latin boom bap today?
mm,
Like I don't really take full credit for what I'm doing. There's been people that told me, "Yeah, I've never heard anybody do this like the way you're doing it," and I can't take credit because you got the Beat Nuts, you got Terror Squad, you got Pun,
for sure.
you got Be Real. Like I can't fully take credit, so that's why I normally say I'm either doing something that no one's heard before, or I'm doing something that hasn't been heard in a long time. But
valid.
going back to the festivals, and real quick, I'm just gonna throw it out there. I know you're in Canada, and Canada has a Latin, um, they have a Latin festival out in Canada. So that's one of my Latin Sparks Festival. That is definitely one of my goals.
Mm.
So now,
Yeah,
because you mentioned
honestly,
you,
Montreal has a really popping Latin scene that is kind of hidden from the average population because we don't speak no Spanish. But since I work in the food industry, so I started seeing like the different restaurants that are popping with their events. And man, honestly, Latin artists are some of the only people who get bags to perform right now because there's just so much love for it. Because the women, they want to be there. So the dudes with the nice cars and the cocaine go where the Latin music ends up being
right?
because that just tends to be some of the more popping shit as far as the baddies are concerned. And here we are. I guess Bad Bunny's influence has gone far in terms
Yeah,
of convincing people this is the pop that we need to be bumping in my city at least.
so much influence that I got rejected from a festival because I'm not making what he just released.
Sheesh.
Word.
I mean, to each their. I've jokingly told Heck, I blame Bad Bunny for me being rejected because I'm not. My sound is not what he just put out. I mean, to each their own. But yeah, no, like some of these festivals have paid me. I've done the moment I started pushing more Latin hip hop. All right, my first festival performance, Bronx, 152nd Street. I've been dying to get back on that stage as just me because I was part of Hex, set.
Hmm.
I watched, not sure if you through Heck if you've met Bronx Prophet, but
Might have.
after the set, we're all backstage and I see somebody go up to Prophet and ask to take a picture with him. And I'm looking at that and I thought, yo, that's so cool. Like not even dope. I think that's so cool. I would like for that to happen one day. Jersey City, Puerto Rican Festival. Perform, killed it. I treated that stage like it was Summer Jam.
Right.
Get off stage. I normally like walk through the crowd, like because of the showcase mentality, is like, I bet, I did my thing. Now let me go get something to drink. I get
Hmm.
stopped. Hey, can you take this? can we take a picture with you? And in my mind, I'm like, with me? Because it's not something I'm used to. So it's like,
Right?
you want to take a picture with me? So I took the picture. Like 2 times I took like two that day. And I was like, it was to this day, I'm still not like used to it. Like I've gone on certain stages that when I've gotten off, they've asked to take a picture with me. And it's crazy because then it's like I look at old footage of Bad Bunny performing at the 116 festival and all these other artists that are big today. And it's like these are the things that they remember. Because when you pop, yo, remember when I took this picture with you back in 2021? So it's like I'm still not used to it, but I thought that, getting on the festival stage, seeing Prophet take that picture, that was all like inspiring. Um, Funny thing about the 2019 festival, um, I was the first one to kick off, like the artist Heck was putting on stage. So I
Mhm.
had the mic. He says, when I give you the nod, turn your mic on. I'm standing up there, and this is I'm telling like showcase crowd, festival crowd, clearly different. I'm looking at all these people that I've never performed from in front of them, the number of people. And I'm trying, and I usually like mumble my lyrics fast in my mind. I couldn't remember a thing. I'm like, no. I look over at my cousin and he gave me the nod. And I'm like, oh no. I turned the mic on and then it is just I think it was just the nerves. Because once the mic went on, it was just like, even though it was a verse, but still, it's just like I've 152nd Street, the amount of people that was out there, that's a first for me.
Right.
So then it was like I couldn't think of any. I don't even know how I even started the verse, but once that mic went on, you know, everything went out the window, and from there it's been life changing.
It's amazing.
Word. Word.
Yeah, it can kind of
Nah.
be like that, eh? When you're
Yeah.
nervous and
Nah.
like
It
sometimes
it
it's like you
it
don't
be
even
like,
remember the performance.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
like psh, what just happened, and then you have to like
Yeah.
you watch the footage after, and you're like, oh shit.
Yeah, no. And then my other cousin Mike Vex was on stage too with the big Puerto Rican flag. So that was getting me more amped up. I was like, yeah, big Boricua energy on the stage right now. But yeah, no, like doing festivals has been like for me, it's what I wish I could have done in showcases, I do on the festival stage. It's a different
Mm.
type of energy.
Do
Like
you,
I
have, do you have any tips for performing at festivals that you would say? Because a lot of people know the showcase vibe. It's usually a smaller stage. You kind of
right.
rap at the crowd. When you're in the festival, as you said already, songs for the moms was a tip, I believe. So that's already something a little bit different. You have to be thinking. So what kind of energy should you be bringing to a festival performance, especially if you're coming from that more perform for rappers experience?
Confidence, energy, confident energy.
Hmm.
You can't be up there looking and sounding like you're not confident. I've
Right.
done
For
showcases
sure.
where and it's based off the sound system too. And I apply that to that because once you start hearing the people talking in the crowd, the volume of that starts getting high until you're completely drowned out.
Hmm.
So when I go onto these festival stages, I always keep that in the back of my mind. Confident energy. Be confident in your performance. You don't got to be up there splitting and doing moonwalks. You just have to be confident, engage, make eye contact, confident.
Yep.
Normally, before I even get on that stage, I do a small little quick prayer. God, please give me the stamina and the energy to get through this. Protect me on that stage. Then it's showtime. Confident
Mm.
energy. You got to be ready before that DJ even plays that record.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Wendell's co-signing what you're saying too. He said he's
Yeah, no,
very.
I could co-sign. I've done the Jerome Gunhill bid in the Bronx, which is like underneath the 4 train,
Mm.
and it's definitely festival, you know what I mean? Like levels of people. And yeah, you're going to perform in front of people that have never heard you before. You got to be confident. But also like that, I think is something that I learned from battle rap shit, right? Like if I'm walking into a room where people don't know me, but also, right, like again, for me, it's like, yo, that's like not the thing that I'm gonna be lacking at on any given night. You know what I
That's
mean?
a fact.
I was talking about that recently with friends on Twitter Spaces where I was just like, uh old co-host of ours, um, that used to host on this show with us on when we would do our perspectives, which is just talking about
Like
things,
opinions and topical
opinions.
news and like
And
Kanye
Lotus
West and.
and Lotus used to be a co-host of ours, and we were talking. I was reading like some shit in the room, and she was like mentioning when we first were in a Twitter Spaces together, and she was like that she asked a friend of mine, a friend of ours, um, who the fuck does this guy think he is? You know what I mean? Like, who is it that I think that I am? And I'm like, that's energy that I've always gotten everywhere I go. And that's absolutely a mixture of all sorts of things. But the first thing that I always give credit to is my parents. My parents instilled confidence in me to the umpteenth degree. Like, because my parents were always very much so like, don't look for anybody. Like, I couldn't use my friends as an excuse growing up. You know what I mean? Like, I couldn't, like, oh, Omar and Rob were doing X, Y, and Z. You don't give a fuck what Omar and Rob were doing. If Omar and Rob jump off fucking bridge, you jumping off the fucking bridge with them? No, exactly. So shut the fuck up. Get that shit out of here. You know what I mean? Mind
Mm.
you, they weren't talking like that because my parents didn't really speak. My father spoke English. My mother didn't speak a lick of English at all. So they're not saying that to me at all. And they both spoke in Spanish to me in the house. But, you know, that was the energy that they would give. And so because of that, I couldn't ever blame anybody for anything. You know what I mean? So I had to always take accountability for myself, but also, they instilled me with a lot of confidence growing up. My grandfather used to be like, whenever I would step into the room and my grandfather was visiting us, he'd be like, "Al chavalo de la película llegó," which in English translates to the star of the movie is here. You know what I mean? Like, but that's like incredible confidence building. You know what I'm saying? And when you're young. And then, you just go through life like that. Was the thing that I said. The other two things that I said were like the three things that round me out with like my confidence and having such high confidence is those, all the compliments that I received my whole life from women and from like other rappers or some shit, and then also my own life experiences by like traveling so much and learning so much and becoming like proficient in so many different industries and work environments. It would be like, yo, this gives me the confidence to be able to shift into other areas of income. And so those three
So,
things always have instilled me with a lot of confidence. And
but
so that allows for when I walk into like a battle rap crowd or a stage to go with like the utmost confidence. And that confidence is usually what leads you to success in those environments where people don't know you. People aren't there to see a guy bumble around figuring himself out. They want a complete package. You know what I mean? People are like,
right.
I'm showing up, I'm showing up to see the complete version of you, not the I'm building, I'm at 25%. You know what I mean? Like that's not what people
So
are
I
like,
think
signing up for.
you're
Mm.
absolutely correct, but I think it's interesting that you pointed out your parents High key, as much as I have complicated situations with my parents, my dad was convinced I'm gonna go do special shit in my life, so he drilled that shit into me since I'm young. And then I also noticed, Ray, you were telling me that your parents were sneaking you into clubs. So I believe that to some degree, they believed in you and helped instill in you a sense of confidence. I could be wrong, but so I guess I'm asking if you feel that them
Your
contributing to
parents
your
help.
success help build that confidence that you're now benefiting from as you perform at these festivals.
Yeah, absolutely. My mom probably my biggest supporter. Not that my father wasn't. I feel like, being younger than than my brother that was doing music at the time, I feel like I always had to like fight, not for him to like acknowledge what I'm doing. Um he does like my music. Like, I'm not saying that like as if he doesn't support me, but I always felt like as I've gotten better, the need to have to fight faded. Um on But he does support me. He does support me, but my mom is like, she's there, like she's probably my biggest supporter.
That's amazing.
Word. That's dope. That's a blessing. That's a super
Super
blessing.
blessing. Not for
Hmm.
real. But that just also goes to show if you're out there and you're a parent that supporting your children and instilling in them that sense of
Goes a long way.
confidence
She'll
could
probably be
be
there
the
at the
thing.
bash.
Yeah, that's hard.
Okay,
Yeah,
word.
man.
Pleasure. I'm
That's
pretty
like a
sure that
super
it'll be a
blessing.
pleasure to meet them.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Also, super shouts out to Heck Tech. We've been mentioning him a lot in this. He'll be co-hosting. He'll be DJing. Heck Tech is the unofficial Liddy Bros DJ. He DJ'd Volume 3, our album release. Um, he's him and me have known each other for a while. We went to high school together. I didn't even know that. Heck with his memory is the one that like told me like, yo, we went to high school together. And I'm like, wait, what? You serious? Really? We did? Like, um I was not paying attention in school, man. I was cutting school left and right and fucking just fucking Papa was a Rolling Stone. You know what I'm saying? And so, but man, Heck Tech is like super good people, great DJ, great representative for the Bronx. We just finished going to the Bronx Ball last weekend.
Mm.
Um, on Saturday, I believe, was the Bronx Ball of last weekend, and yeah, man, we were just in the building, shaking hands. He does like interviewing people for BronxNet on the red carpet floor. Um, and yeah, that's my guy. Like we go back to high school.
Yeah,
Um,
no. Heck
uh,
has played a very important role in my journey. And the thing is, like me, I'm the type of person I could lead, but like I know how to be a soldier as well.
Mm.
So whether it's my brother hitting me up, because that's my big brother. So it's
right.
like I easily become soldier. You that Hack Tech logo symbol gets thrown in the sky,
Mm-hmm.
then I turn into like that soldier again, because not, it's like the saying, what's the saying, too many lieutenants, not enough soldiers.
Mm.
Word.
So
Right,
it's
right,
like,
Too
right,
many,
right.
too many chief.
Or too many
yeah,
Right.
chefs in
The
the kitchen, or yeah,
Too many
right.
chefs in the kitchen. The
So
racist original was too many chiefs, not enough
chiefs not
Indians.
enough Indians.
yeah.
Yeah,
But
So
that's wildly racist in 2025.
facts. We're just acknowledging
they
that.
they're
yeah.
not Indians. They're indigenous people, folks.
That's a fact.
So
Yeah, so
I'm pretty sure there's some Tate fans.
when it comes to my
Yeah,
cousin, like I easily fall in line.
yeah,
No problem doing
Understood.
that. He's guided me this far, and I'm pretty sure he's gonna continue to do so until the end of time.
Yeah. So I have a next question for you because what I've been fucking around with is ChatGPT, and it
Mm.
has this tool called Deep Research. So I gave it your Instagram, and I said, ChatGPT, research this man, and
Oh
come
man.
up with all this shit. So, a lot of what we've talked about is kind of there. But something it brought up was you being a podcaster, and so I looked on your YouTube, and on your YouTube I could find the one that you've got posted, Quarantine and Rap. So I'm curious about how that started. But then it also mentioned something called Un-Kaged with Ray, and it told me that you're trying to be a label owner and start signing artists and all this. So I don't know if this is true because it's ChatGPT, right? So it could be making
Okay.
shit up. But also,
Mm.
I would love it if you could clarify that, because that's what ChatGPT told me about you.
All right. So to get the label owner out the way, I do, again, thanks to my cousin, I do have my own LLC, Caged
Beautiful.
Music. So it's like, I might as well sign myself. Signing artist, you don't know anything about that anytime soon. I am working with a producer. Her name is DJ Eve Striving Mind Productions. Super fire producer. Um, but as far as signing anybody at the moment, no. As far as artists, no.
Mm.
Now podcast, Uncaged, with Ray is, I had to revamp from Quarantine and Rap. Quarantine and Rap was birthed during COVID because I was dealing with certain people, and it's like, you need to learn how to engage with people. You know, the here goes to social media bots and spamming, and you know what I mean? Like, my thing with engaging is like, might be considered spamming. So
Right.
I was
On
like,
that
I
Scorpio shit.
exactly. So then I'm like, I started going live, just like just going live for like maybe about like an hour, a little over an hour. So I started becoming like a consistent thing. So my homegirl KDK was like, yo, you need to come up with a name for these. So I was like, after thinking, I'm like, well, I know the old school term for rapping is talking to someone, like, yo, let me rap with you. So I was like, all right, we're in quarantine and rap. And then I think what really kicked it off was it Chris Rivers? It kicked off. Let's put it like that.
But
Started reaching out to certain artists, Mala Raines, Chris Rivers, Johnny
shouts to
Denver, who used to roll with Snow the
all artists
Product.
that I'm peoples with. Shouts to Chris Rivers. Shouts to his mom. Shouts to Albie Back, who introduced me to all of them. Shouts to Mala Raines. That's like family through family. Um, yeah, this is all. Those names are all very familiar to me. So, word,
Yes, bless.
bless you. Holden's like, I'm not done yet. I got
I'm
another
not
four
done yet.
sneezes in me.
It's probably like that, yeah. When it hits,
Grand
it hits.
Slam.
Hmm.
So I started reaching out to artists to
Hmm.
interview them, and because you ever listen to a record, a classic record, I'll give you I'll give you the Blackstreet, um Don't Leave Me. I was listening to that song right around the
Hmm.
time I was thinking of, like, the direction of quarantine rap. And it's
Hmm.
like, all right, I know I have to engage with people. And then I'm thinking, you ever listen to a song and you just wonder, because it's like timeless. You ever just wonder, what was that studio session like? Like, how did you guys know that this was gonna be like timeless? Like, did you think about it then? Like, what was the writing sessions like? Like, what was the what
Mm,
was, then it's like, all right, bet, got it. I want to engage with the artist and learn about their journey and apply it to my journey. Find
mm.
ways to apply their journey, like learn from them and apply it. That was how I was thinking how I'm gonna engage with these artists. So then I just started thinking of certain artists that I wanted to interview, certain people. I've interviewed my aunt, I've interviewed Heck. Um, I think my last interview on Quarantine and Rap was um Brooklyn, Sky Zoo.
Mm.
Word.
So the
So
interview with guys here. That's
yeah.
hard.
And so I just started I just started reaching out to artists. I was supposed to interview Chanel West Coast. Um, let's just say that things didn't happen.
Word.
But reaching out to artists, getting yeses, setting the dates. Shouts to my guy Sage and Tyler, who was producing the show, and he brought my vision like season 2. He brought my vision like because I look at shows like Rap City, The Basement, 106 Park. Those were important. Um, like for me, growing up, and their engagement. I wanted to interview free. That was ultimate goal.
Word.
So getting through season 2, like I was the type of person, because I have so much already going on. I didn't want to have to keep worrying about contacting artists, booking, wasting a lot, not wasting time, but devoting a lot of time. I want to, what was going to keep my mind, was going to keep me excited to do this, is if I
And
do
just
it
so that people
by
know
seasons.
that actually does take a lot of time to
A
go through
lot of
the
time.
booking and then the follow up and then you gotta have some faith that things go the way that you plan because
Mm.
occasionally at the last minute you're stuck trying to come up with last minute plans and I get where you're
Yeah.
coming from, sir. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
No,
like,
we can empathize over here. We understand. That's why we switched. That's why we switched from perspectives where we were interviewing people like this to our perspectives where we were just talking about what's going on in the culture
Right.
online every week because it was like it's easier to just talk our thoughts
mm,
than to guarantee a guest every week. You
Right.
know,
But
like
exactly.
then
it becomes it
you
becomes
take a
exhausting.
break and you miss it and next thing you know it sucks you back
Right,
in because
right,
you can't once you're in you can't escape this life.
Yeah, no, and that's where I was. That's why, imagine I did a couple lives before finally deciding on Quarantine and Rap. So then it's like I mapped that out. And then it's like I knew like the vision. I had a vision, but I needed to get through the first wave, season 1. Because I knew what I wanted to do, but I couldn't do it with season 1. Season 2 hits. Now I'm interviewing Heck. I've interviewed producer Oddity, um Johnny Denver, other artists. I took a shot in the dark with the R&B artist, excuse me, who sings and raps. That was the first time. Um, and actually, Sky Zoo made up for Chanel West Coast interview not happening. So
right,
that was a blessing right there. Got him in
Yo, shout
time.
out Sky Zoo.
word,
Man, super dope dude, man, super dope. Um, and then it's like I knew I was gonna take a break. I didn't think the break was gonna go long, but then as time went on, we're back outside. Quarantine is pretty much over.
right,
Too much time has passed, and then it's like, well, I don't want to do quarantine. I don't want to do quarantine and rap because now it's starting to feel one dimension. Because people think, oh, but I don't rap. No, no, the rap part is an old term for let me rap, let me talk to you, rap with you. So I'm like, all right, well, I got caged music. One of my projects is called Beast Un-Kaged. The first project I put out caged music. Okay, let's do Uncaged with Ray. So now it opens, it opens, it opens the possibilities of actors, actresses, artists.
Mm.
I'm trying to interview people who um catch predators. I want to tap into their
word,
mind and how much it affects them when when they're doing their thing. Like this is me. I want to pick their brain. And artists, and just I don't want to make it completely guest based. That's why I'm not holding myself to having one co-host. There might be episodes where we're touching on topics. I want to keep an open mind to everything, and I want to expand. So it's like it ain't gonna be guest based, and you're gonna be able to get a lot more because now I gotta play on my vision. I have a certain vision, and I'm gonna go for it.
Yeah, that's
Word.
valid, especially because guest based, your performance is just so driven by your guest, and then it kind of touches back to like what we were talking about, showcase audience conversions and opening up for the wrong people and things like that. Like, it's not that it doesn't help, but if people are only coming, like we had the blessing of interviewing Immortal Technique, and
Mm.
that got crazy numbers, right? Because we got wild lucky. He mentioned Alex Jones right around when Alex Jones interviewed Kanye West, so we put Alex Jones in the title. That video took right off. Those people didn't necessarily come back and watch the rest of the content we produced. They
Right.
Right.
just were really into that one. And don't get me wrong, I'm really proud of that. Like, I think it is the highest organic performing piece of content in anything I've done. So it's such a blessing. But it's also a lesson in that when it is guest driven content, if you can't keep up that caliber of guest necessarily, then you're not going to keep up the kind of growth potential. Like, it's a little tough to get people to follow you when you're
Mhm.
there, when they're there for whoever you're interviewing. So by expanding into a broader thing that makes you more the center of it, it allows you to kind of build a community that grows with you, as opposed to, not to say that interviews are bad, but it's just that you bring up a really valid point with the need to evolve and pivot beyond simply doing interviews.
Yeah,
Right.
like the term caged and uncaged was came from like someone like Talib Kweli. You'll probably come across his music once in a blue on High 97. It depends on who's the DJ, right? So I always looked at that as caged music because what happens with a caged animal, after you poke it, you know, a good amount of times, once they break out, now they're free, they're uncaged. So that's where the concept of caged music came from, is the music that is locked in, ready to be set free, uncaged. So when I'm tapping to people's journeys or whoever it is, or the thoughts, these are uncaged thoughts. I'm no longer holding it in. Uncaged your journey. What made you feel locked in? What set you free? Caged, uncaged. And that's why, or I might interview a wrestler. What was your journey like? What you felt like, who, did you feel like so and so held you back, or you felt like the promoters weren't wasn't treating you fairly? Like, I'm gonna tap into all of that. So Uncaged is just, it's me starting over again, but it's in a way it's same concept as quarantine and rap, but this one is just now I spread my wings.
Right.
Word. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're going to be performing at Boricua Bash, and tell us a little bit about some of the songs.
Oh, uh, bringing energy. It's gonna be a roller coaster. It's gonna work. I'm gonna work my way up. It's gonna feel like a drop. It's gonna feel, at one point, it's gonna feel steady, and then I'm gonna end strong.
Word.
Mm.
That's how I'm just gonna build that's how I'm building the set.
Word.
You're gonna have that feel good music. I'm gonna talk to the artist at the same time I'm talking to the people in attendance, and then I'm just gonna close it out.
Word.
That's how
Word.
that's how I normally build my sets and like my performance list anyways. It's like, all right, I need the energy to start them. I need that climb. I need that feeling like we there, like the drop. I'm gonna be on cruise control for like 2 minutes, and then just when I'm about to wrap up, we gonna feel it in the building.
Right.
Dope, dope. Um, Lindell's, well, since we're wrapping up here, Lindell had asked his, Lindell is always with us. He's always in the comments, and has a general question that he asks everybody, and that's, who are your top three artists? I say, feel free to turn it into a Mount Rushmore. So you could turn it into your top four artists. Who's in your top three, or who's your Mount Rushmore? One of the two.
Yeah.
Well, before I can answer that, top three all time, top three current.
He doesn't have a specificity, but
It's
why don't
hard.
you
Yeah.
go for both?
Hmm. Top three all time, biased pun. Nas. This one can be tricky depending on influence and impact. Pun Nas. Could be DMX. Um, could be Hove. That's just all time. Um,
That's the Mount Rushmore.
but yeah, I mean, M does have like he played a big part in inspiring me, and I'm not talking about the whole how you inspired by someone who wants to kill his wife. Listen, like if go listen to If I Had from the Slim Shady LP. Go listen to Rock Bottom. I know exactly what them songs feel like. Oh, you know what I mean? I used to work in warehouses with ex-cons, probably, sex offenders. I've had to stand at the bus stop in the cold waiting for that bus so I can go work in these warehouses with them. So like it all really depends honestly. But of all time, I would say Pun, Nas, possibly Hove, possibly X. It depends on my mood.
Um, Word. What about your current?
Current top three current. Who am I listening to? Man, it's kind of rough. Because I keep tapping into the artists that inspire me. I have days where I'm listening to NF. I have days where I'm listening to Joyner Lucas. I have days where I'm listening to Tech Nine.
Hmm.
There's my
Word.
Nas days, there's my Hove days. So it's like it's kind of hard to just like chop it down to three because I tend to listen to what inspires me, where I'm gonna pull inspiration from.
Word. No,
That's
that's
valid.
solid, valid list, yo. Solid, valid list.
And it is kind of tougher to pick like a current thing in this current era, and the number of things we can listen to is wild different. Whereas like, also we're not like super young, where like we out there on that this is my favorite thing ever energy. But that's past, and that's what you already gave us, right? So now when
Mhm.
we're in the current, it's like it's like new, it's different, and that's some science back shit. I'm not articulating it well, but there's some real
Nah,
shit to that.
that's definitely a thing, right? Most people, after they get out, if you're not an artist, when you're not an artist and you are just a regular everyday human being, right? Um, you get out of high school, college years, and it's time to become a fucking adult. You know what I mean? And
Right.
part of becoming an adult means working crazy hours, making sure that your household's intact,
Hmm.
and you lose the ability to be up on what's new and up on what's, you know what I mean, the new whatever artist or the new music that's coming out. and you start kind of like just leaning back on everything that made you happy in when times were simpler before you were an adult who had to take care of bills and a household. And then you start just playing all the old stuff over and over. And that's why that's why you see a lot of people of all eras, right? Like have their shit where they're like, oh, this doesn't compare when if your era is whatever it is, you have stuff that you stick to. When rap was first coming out, there was a lot of people being like, oh, young man, this ain't music. Let me put you on some music sounds like, and they'd put you on to like 60s, 70s soul and R&B, or depending on what your parents were, depending on what they would play for you, you know what I mean? So it's just one of those situations where most people tend to live in that like, and so it happens every generation. Generationally, people get out of college and they are now working a full-time job and they're taking care of their household and they don't got time to keep up with things anymore. And whatever
Uh,
was the thing that was their high school music, that's the stuff that they look back on fondly as like this is the greatest shit ever. And
Yeah.
that's just ends up what happening with every generation. It's not like it ever stops because there's always some newly minted adults making their way into the workplace and their high school era was whenever the fuck they were in high school. So, it's just one of those things, like it's not
yeah,
it's not a it's no guaranteed. It's just usually by age group and whatnot. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Um,
Also, like,
but like also sometimes it's not like that, right? Like I'm somebody that like I'm hitting OG era, you know what I mean, age group, and like I'm still up on me and Lush One be like hanging out talking about like young artists and being up on like yo you hear about this guy, did you hear about that guy? Me and Poison Pen will be hanging out and with some like young cats and they'll be talking about some artists and we'll be like yeah, we know about that, we know about them. You know what I mean?
so
Like it's not.
so one of the things is that for a lot of people, they stop like the soundtracks that they listen to are based on the memories they have. So a lot of the time, your dishes music is really your clubbing playlist from when you were 21, and just things like that because you're trying to put yourself in vibes and stuff. So where I think Flacco is different than a lot of people is he never stopped partying. He just
For sure,
he's still out
for
there,
sure.
like at a level where
Facts.
it's like he's like the most of us end up with radio music because we all end up in our cars a lot, and we all end up in these vibes where it's radio vibes, and then
Mhm.
maybe playlists and Spotify does its thing, but Flacco be outside,
Yeah, to
outside.
be outside. Listen, that's what though I feel like leads me to have like an unbiased opinion. So like when everybody's like during the Kendrick and Drake beef, when everybody's like, "Oh, it's over for Drake, his career is done." I'm like, if his career is done, you should probably inform all the stores playing his music, all the barbecues playing his music, all the bars and clubs playing his music, all the DJs still playing his music. There's a wild group of people that they just tune into music and they don't give a fuck about no
Man,
rap
I
beefs.
drive I
They
drive
don't
in the
know
Uber,
anything about it
and
at
like
all. And
I could tell you one thing, that Nokia song came out and girls be singing that shit in my car when I driving them around the city. You know what? I've never really had anybody ask for Kendrick on their way to a party. And I'm not saying that Kendrick doesn't have his role, but I never had anybody ask for Kendrick. But I've definitely had people ask for Drake and Travis Scott. Travis Scott is
Mhm.
ridiculously
another one. He's
popular.
another one. Huge artist. Huge, huge, huge.
There's a crowd for everything. It's
Yeah,
just,
yeah.
we deal with people that that try to tell you what you have to listen to instead of what you want to listen to. So it's like I understand now, and at my age, I understand when people say, "Well, if I'm in the club, I'm not trying to listen to Eminem dissing Ja Rule on Do Re Mi. No, I want to hear Ja Rule
Right.
and Ashanti." So there's a crowd for everything. There's a time and place for everything.
Just saying,
Yeah.
girls change everything. Girls just
Also, women
like
changed the
when
yeah,
Make a record for the
I would
mommies.
much
yeah.
rather have like Gasolina be playing in a room full of women than anything in Eminem's catalog.
Listen, Ray, let me tell you, when me and Jesse and our brother Paulie Hustle embarked on this Liddy Bros journey,
I was
I
waiting for you
already
to say his
I
name.
I was already like, bro, like we're talking about 12 albums deep into my career, or actually I think I was like 13 or 14 albums deep into my career. And and it's one of those things where like I already had proven all the lyrical points that I wanted to prove. You know what I mean? And I
Mm.
got to a point in my career where I was just like, yo, I want my wife and her friends to want to listen to my music when they're going to go out and hang out, or when they are like chilling with each other, driving around. I want them to want to listen to my music and not play my music out of like pity or love. You know what I mean? Like there's a difference between like being making music and trying to prove a point lyrically as a rapper, and then like making music that's palatable to like the general people. And when we started doing Liddy Bros, that was the objective of Liddy Bros, was to make music for the mommies, make music that women are gonna be like, yo, I want to listen to that again. You know what I'm saying? I want to listen to that again. Not aiming for the dude, not aiming for the yo, he killed that shit.
Mhm.
Let's play on that shit again. Like, nah, I already got a bunch of music throughout my whole career that dudes would be like, yo, bro, fucking Dead in the Middle of or Al-Qaeda Vega or this or that. And I'd be like, word, man, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. But like I got to a point where I was just like, yo, I could empathize with Nori when he would be in interviews on Drink Champs talking about like Capone and Noriega shows, and he'd be like, yo, this shit is a sausage fest. And it's yo, wild, thugged out dudes. And he was like, I don't want to perform for that no more. Like
Mm.
I love them for the support throughout all these years, but I would like to perform for some Pharrell type of crowd.
Right.
And I got to the point in my career where I was like, yo, I want to perform for some Pharrell type of crowds.
Because
Yeah.
Hex logic behind make a song for the mommies is that if you make a song for the shorties and they mans hear it, they're gonna be like, yo, who is this that you listening to? So if they hear it
Word.
and they mess with you, it's like not only did you gain one, but you came, 2 for 1. And that
Right.
was his whole thing behind like the whole make a song for the mommies. It's to I'm gonna get you. Your man's is gonna wonder who's this dude you're listening to?
Right.
Oh, he's actually dope. Now I got the
Yeah.
both of you.
Right.
No, it's
Right.
a
Bait.
fact.
For sure.
Plus, like
For
when
sure.
like I also think like, and it took me a really long time to learn this. But like when people go out, they're honestly trying to have fun, and a lot of them are trying to have sex, and that's
Mm-hmm.
Amen.
why they're out. And this means that if you're like in the nightlife of your city, and half that room is honestly there to try to fuck half that room, and your songs be on some not in that vibe shit, you're just not really reading the room correctly. Now,
Right.
maybe if it's like a showcase of rappers and it's one of them, okay, Sausage Fest shows, which I've been to many, fine. But if you're trying to like make something more appealing to things that have women are at, you gotta understand the second you bring women in the room, people are gonna get horny. And now the vibe is wild different. It's just the fact of the situation. So like you can't be out there being like, I'm the lyrical miracle bestest, let's think philosophy, talk about fucking Biden shit. Like it's not the right energy for that. In fact, what people really want is shake that ass shit. They wanna feel like, yo, turn up. Yo, tonight's gonna be a good night. Yo, this is the best night ever. Like, or
What did
like,
you just DM me about, Holden?
oh yeah,
Uh,
recently, me and my man's. So I was in Puerto Rico with Flacco last year, and he was playing Polly Hustle's Liddy Bro Polly's solo project, and I'm like, bro, this shit's just like song after song about fucking. My understanding is, I guess, Pauly did some cocaine and was in a vibe and banged out like all these songs while he was in that vibe. And so, and then Flacco's like, how many songs do you have about sex? And I thought about it and I'm like, not many. So because of that, I heard this beat. I wrote this song about fucking. My man's laid down the most pop chorus ever about girls and shit. Like, literally, it's like, tonight I believe in forever. And like some shit they can really sing to. Bro, that shit is. The little gangsters in my Uber like it. The shorties like it. We put it on a playlisting service. People are adding it to their playlist. I'm just like, what the fuck, bro? I have rapped about 100 different things, but the fucking song, the vapid fucking song too. But one where I had to be like, listen, girlfriend of mine, this is not. This is like, we're just writing this, okay? This is Fantasyland, like, chill. Like one of them joints, and like that's the one. I'm just like, get the fuck out of here. But performing it live, that's gonna go like to a point where these kids were like, yo, bro, push that on Sirius. Go send that into Sirius XM, bro. It's that song. I'm like, all right. I guess more fucking songs, more for the mommy songs, because
for the
it's the
mommies.
ones you never realize.
It's also
Yeah.
just people want to hear about that when they're out and when they're vibing and once you bring girls into the equation. And if you really listen to a lot of what women listen to, it's about having fun, heartbreak, romance, love.
Right.
Like, they want to
You're
see that
going out to
sensitive
escape
side
that.
of you. They want to see that fun side of you. What they don't want to see is the tough side of you. Ain't nobody
Yeah.
going to the club to see you be tough unless it's, you know, a different type of club with like
Right.
that, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Anyhow. But,
yeah, yo,
yeah.
I think we this was a super solid interview, yo. It was a
Facts.
pleasure getting to know you better before the show, Ray. Uh Feel
Yeah.
free to like hit me up if you got like a project coming out and you want to come on here, promote it. You know what I'm saying? We're more than open to like having you on again and talking about more of your life. You know what I mean? Because we did not reach modern day, right? Like there's still plenty of chapters to the book of your life that we can go over. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, definitely let us know. And let us know when you are making your guest list for your show. We'd love to be on. We'd love to come on your show. We'd love to like cross promote. You know what I'm saying? So
Absolutely.
It's a
word.
fact. Yeah, we're trying to build that here, and it's that type of game. But yeah, do you have any like last closing words you want to say to the people out there?
Last closing words.
Yeah.
Be yourself. Control your story. Tell your story. Don't let anybody else tell it for you. You are the master of your craft.
Amazing.
True story.
That's a fact. Yeah, so appreciate you for coming on. It was great meeting you, Ray. Thanks to everybody who's
Pleasure.
watching, Lindell
Same.
and Chris for being in the comments, and anybody who's gonna watch this in the future. We appreciate you as well.
Word.
Looking forward to hearing about how the show goes. I will not be there, unfortunately. I will be in the States that weekend, but I will not be there. So I look forward to hearing how it goes. And if you want to plug it one more time, Flacco, just to let the people know.
Word. Right. Boricua Bash, Friday, June 6th at Sugar Mouse in Manhattan, which is 47 3rd Avenue, New York, New York, 10003. We're going to be having Jess James Figueroa and DJ Hectech hosting. We'll have a bunch of performances from Ray Pearson, CF, who was on last week with us, Rye Gennaro, JL Mafia, Bawdy Boys, Zoe G, myself, I'll be performing as well, and maybe a couple secret performances. We'll see how it goes. We'll
Bring
probably
Foley
be
out.
having a little man, Paulie just does not. He refuses to perform in America. He's like, yo, we're gonna perform in Europe or we're not performing at all. And I'm just like,
Oh
word.
man.
we're gonna end up in Europe, I believe, at the end of this year, if not at the
It's
top of
dope.
next year.
It's dope.
And then hopefully I can get him to perform locally after he's not with the local performance right now. But yeah,
Uh,
we'll hopefully we'll have some secret surprise guests, and if not, regardless, it's gonna be a dope lineup. Again, Boricua Bash, Friday, June 6th at Sugar Mouse, which is located at 47 3rd Avenue, New York 10003.
Yeah, appreciate that. And thanks again, everybody, for watching. We'll be back next Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure to tune in. Another interview. We'll be keeping this going. Also, you can let us know who you think wants to be interviewed already. We've already got people in the Perspectives DMs being like, "Hey, you want to let me on your show to talk?" So, wow, it's crazy. We come back for 2 weeks and boom, it's lit up again. Let's go. So, appreciate the fact that there are
Word.
people out there paying attention. It's very encouraging, and looking forward to seeing what the future brings. On that note,
Word.
live long and prosper, everyone out there. Looking forward to seeing you next time.